Let's talk a wee bit about domain names, right? Amazon.com, Google.com, all the rest of that sort of stuff. The thing that makes those kind of interesting is that they've got a pure digital component, which is, DNS, it's a record in a database. But they also have a real world aspect, which is trademark law. So, that interspace between registered trademarks for, companies doing business, but then also this digital representation of a domain name, and then the kind of joining together of that digital layer and the trademark layer to get a usable system that allows you to do stuff in the real world. That's a pretty good example of the kind of absolute minimum case for an RWA, right? If domain names didn't have any trademark law associated with them and they just floated in space as a pure digital thing, that would be a real digital asset. A trademark in the real world is not any kind of an RWA, that's just a real world thing. It's not, a blockchain thing, it's not a digital thing, it's just property. But that bridge point where you've got kind of digital thing and a legal thing and they're just lightly connected together, that gave us DNS, and that was a critical part in us being able to get onto the internet in a kind of coherent way. Extending that model so that you can have a link between an NFT token and a deed for a piece of real estate, it's the same logic as a trademark is tied to a domain name, a property title is tied to an NFT, right? A share of a container load of laptops is connected to an ERC20. It's all basically the same logic of the internet that got us this far, but extended to new classes of property in the real world. And then the infrastructure side of that, and I say this with hard-earned experience, is probably has to be a shared infrastructure because it is really quite hard. If we had 250 companies that were sharing the legal expenses of nailing down this real world asset stuff, the whole field would fly along. And instead what we have is 250 companies that are all doing it themselves. And what you get is a landscape that is littered with, 2-meter deep wells when the water is actually 45 meters deep. It's the concerted shared effort of you drill one deep well that to me is the thing that makes this an infrastructure problem rather than just a problem solving problem. And again, your parallel is, if everybody rolled their own NFTs or rolled their own ERC20s, you wouldn't have an exchange, you wouldn't have things like OpenSea, you wouldn't have Coinbase, because the technical costs of speaking all of those standards would be too high. Standardization and sharing of the work is kind of the essential mechanism of progress on the internet, and it is no different for the blockchain.